And so the Russians, just to close the loop on this, the Russians and Putin are putting their foot down. It's all right, enough of it. We're not going to have that here. We need a growing population. We need a country that's growing. We need more people. We need more people working. We need more productivity. And we're going to sign up for all this new age so-called elitist brilliance. So, ergo, the reason why the ban on gay athletes at the Olympics. Okay, back to the phones now. Seth in Castle Ford, Idaho. I'm glad you called. Thank you for waiting, too. Hello.
Hi, Rush. Calling from God's country where we're harvesting the amber waves of grain.
I like that. Harvesting the amber waves of grain. I like that. Thank you for the call.
Hey, it's a pleasure to talk to you, to talk to somebody like you who's created so much logical, critical thought in our society. You know, it's really a pleasure.
I don't get to talk to people like me, like you do, unless I talk to myself, and I don't do that. So I understand how important that is to you.
All right. Well, my point is to the embassy closings, and my interpretation of what the Democrats are doing is, and many of our lawmakers, they're more concerned about job security rather than national security. I think that this embassy closing is a way for them to re-establish the narrative that they lost during Benghazi by creating credibility for taking credibility for nothing happening and ignoring when something actually happened.
Wait a minute, I'm not sure I follow you. I think you're on the cusp here of a good point, but I'm not sure I follow. How is it they're creating credibility or taking credit for nothing happening in Benghazi? Something clearly did happen in Benghazi, and it's not good.
No, I think that what they're going to end up doing with this embassy closing, if nothing happens, they will take credit for nothing happening, like they protected us from this problem that they've created.
I've got you.
Rather than at the same time calling Benghazi a phony scandal that something actually did happen, and they're trying to completely ignore it. I think that they were losing the narrative between, people hammering it like you and Glenn Beck and some of those people were hammering the narrative that it actually was a tragedy in our society, and by them creating this problem and taking credibility for nothing happening.
Okay, so here we have, Seth, thanks. I really appreciate it. Here we have more cynicism. Here's a guy who thinks this shutdown of 21 embassies is simply so that when nothing happens, they can all claim credit for shutting down a major threat. Because they've told us this is a bigger threat, certainly as big. The chatter is as big as what we got before 9/11. Well, that was the worst one, 9/11. We haven't had anything like that in this country, 48 states, ever before. And so, right. So here we have this massive possibility. And we close the embassies, and the Obama regime rolls up its sleeves and gets busy working on it. And then if nothing happens, they see how good we were. We are confident. You can rely on us. You remember how the drive-by media used to claim that George W. Bush used terrorist threats to distract us from other problems? Do you remember how the mainstream media, do drive-bys, used to accuse Bush of making up terror events in order to make himself look tough, in order to make himself look smart, in order to make himself and his administration look competent? Remember how the media used to accuse Bush of fabricating terror events as a distraction? And it's basically what Seth is saying here that Obama is doing. And that what they're really aiming at being able to say is that when this all ends up, if nothing happens, they can say they prevented another Benghazi. Except that Benghazi was a phony scandal. I have another view about this. If that's true, if this is all just political and propaganda and optics, which if I were to learn that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised. So I think this bunch politicizes everything. I think everything's a photo op. I think everything is part of an agenda to strengthen Obama and his hold, his reputation, everything. I don't think, and this is, by the way, intelligence guided by experience, I don't think Obama takes all this stuff seriously anyway. Or Benghazi wouldn't happen the way it did. I think, and by the way, do you remember, I haven't talked about it yet, but there's a story that hit yesterday that the first criminal charges have been filed against a terrorist or two responsible for Benghazi. So the regime is treating this as a criminal act, not an act of war. File charges? Criminal charges against the Benghazi terrorist leader? A crime? And this is always the way the left has preferred to look at terrorism. It's a criminal act. It isn't an act of war. I don't think they take it that seriously. And I say that only because of the way they dealt with Benghazi and attempted to use Benghazi as four Americans died. This is a reprehensible thing that happened because it was unnecessary. It could have, been prevented, or we could have at least engaged and limited some of the damage. We didn't do anything. For whatever reasons, and we've gone through all those possibilities. The bottom line is I get the sense that this bunch really doesn't take it all that seriously. Terrorism is really not a bit. It's something they don't think they're ever going to be able to defeat. It's random pockets of lunatics here and lunatics there, and we just treat them as criminals and so forth. In the meantime, we'll use it to spy on Americans and ramp up whatever they need to with the NSA and whatever. Use it to expand their powers. But treating it seriously in a way to actually deal with it, I just don't get that sense. So I understand the cynicism that caller like Seth has about this. Brief time out, folks. Much more when we get back. Don't go.